How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live, our new kind of different way to do this than what we've done here in previous years, or I guess last year it would be, to where we did late night non-conference games against mid-majors. That would go late into the night. For instance, if we did it last night, the game would have been, it ended about maybe 10:30, 10:15, 10:30. Press conferences. Bottom line is I want to make this as convenient for you folks as possible and be able to make it so that everybody gets to watch and gets to bed early. I know people have to go to work. And so this is the opportunity to do just that. The lines are open. 812-393-2600 is the number. And the Hoosiers are off to a 1-0 start for this basketball season. It is exciting to see just how well the Hoosiers played. I'm going to go ahead and just straight up tell everybody that I thoroughly enjoyed watching that basketball game last night. Thoroughly enjoyed it in a way that I haven't in a long time. It was modern basketball. It was really fantastic to see the ball movement. I talked about this a little bit on the morning after that I did last night, but the ball movement was incredible. For a group of guys that is playing together for the first time in real live action. Obviously, they've been practicing, they've had exhibition games, but real live action, it's different. It's just different when you have that, but they looked like a group that had been playing a lot. The biggest stat that stood out to me was 11 turnovers on the night. Now, double digits is more than you want. You try to keep it around 10. The fewer, the better. But for a group of guys that had never played in a live action game against a team playing against them in anger, to only have 11 turnovers is impressive to me. It was really impressive. And I just am so excited about what this season has to offer. 812-393-2600 is your number. I want to talk IU basketball, IU football with everybody because it's going to be an interesting season, to say the least. And we're going to be getting a phone call here from some of our Peegs.com people to talk about their thoughts on the game and everything that happened at Simon Scott Assembly Hall last night. It was a very special atmosphere, and not special just because it was the first game of the season. What we saw last year throughout really everything that you saw basically from mid-December on was there was just so much rancor and so much just a lack of energy that went into everything. Mike Woodson wasn't exactly a giant personality. Not that Darren DeVries is, but Mike Woodson could feel the heat. And he could feel that things were getting tense at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, and indeed they were. And so being able to just get a fresh start with what I say is Indiana 3.0. You have everything that came before the Kelvin Sampson firing. Indiana 2.0 has been Tom Crean until the end of last season, and now it is 3.0. And it's interesting because you have fans that know who these guys are, but it really is a situation where this team is all about guys who have been elsewhere. We got a couple freshmen on there, but guys who mostly have played elsewhere and learning to play together, learning to fall in love with IU. And the fans, meanwhile, are cheering for them because they are wearing the Indiana uniform. They're cheering for the tradition. They're cheering for the uniform and not necessarily because they have a favorite player. Well, I'll tell you right now, there's a bunch of guys who really made themselves into going on the path to being favorite players yesterday. Reed Bailey was really effective, working inside and out. 21 points on 7 of 9 shooting. Lamar Wilkerson, knock down some long threes. I saw somebody on the Peegs message board talk about some of his heat checks. He's not quite Rod Wilmot heat check, but he's got to check it. And he knocked down 4 of 10, 19 points. Indiana knocked down 10 threes, took 24 of them. Made all 16 of their free throws. You had Tucker DeVries, 18 points and 11 rebounds, 4 assists in 30 minutes. Loved all of that. And for a team that hasn't played a ton together, to be able to hold Alabama A&M to 51 points, to hold Alabama A&M to just 34% shooting, to out-rebound them 42-19, it was impressive. And that is something that is really, really important early on. It gets tougher this Saturday against Marquette, but that is something that, at least for a starting game, it worked out really, really well. Go ahead and drop any kind of questions you may have in the chat. Want to talk to you guys. Talk IU football, talk IU basketball, anything that we want. I'm here for you. Because, we're trying to fill in that gap to not make people stay up too late and on the game nights. So this is your chance to talk, and looking forward to hearing from you. 812-393-2600 is the number. The atmosphere at Assembly Hall yesterday, I think, was really, really fantastic because, again, like I said, there's energy, there's hope, but then the brand of basketball made everybody just kind of take a deep breath and just a sigh of relief is what it was, because it was actually good basketball, something that you really want to see, and a style that I think can be really successful. Yeah, might be some bumps along the way. There's going to be some inconsistency. It is a natural to have that. But for a first outing, Indiana was able to show off a little bit of depth. The Hoosiers' main players, main rotation went 8 deep. You had 3 walk-ons play later in the game. But the ball moved. And, Indiana scores 98 points. Connor Enright didn't have a point, didn't even take a shot. But everybody else was pretty efficient with what they did. Reed Bailey, 21 points, 7 of 9 shooting. Lamar Wilkerson, 19 points, 7 of 13. Tucker DeVries, 18 points, 7 of 13. Tayton Connerway, 6 of 7, 14 points. Hoosiers shoot 36 of 58 from the field in the ball game. 17 and 27 in the second half. That's something else. The consistency that this team showed from one half to the next was really important, because this wasn't a team that, kind of let off the gas or anything like that. That's not what happened. And the fact that the Hoosiers were able to just be consistent, just make sure that everything was stayed at a high level, regardless of who was on the floor. I mean, it's got to remind you of what is going on across the parking lot at Memorial Stadium. It has to. You don't have a choice. And so the fact that Indiana was as successful as they were in both the first half and the second half was critical. First half, Indiana scores 58 points. Second half, they score 40. You had obviously 18 more points in second half, but Indiana didn't get sloppy with the ball. It was basically the same two halves, save for that time when you had the walk-ons come in. Because let's see, Indiana had 98 points when the walk-ons came in, I believe. Yeah, they had 96 points when the walk-ons came in, and only added a couple of free throws, basically, in the last 4 minutes of the game. And so otherwise, I mean, look, people were really rooting for them to get to 100, which is, obvious that is going to be what people are shooting for. People got free French fries yesterday too. I know that's big to some people. So Kevin on the chat says watching coaches actually coach players playing together in the style was refreshing. I cannot agree with you more about that. Refreshing is the right word. Refreshing is the right word. Because that is, it was refreshing to see modern basketball. It was refreshing to be able to see the Hoosiers run multiple possessions and not have you think, my God, what are we doing? That's really important too. Indiana fans know basketball, and they know what it looks like when it's good. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is not good basketball. Sometimes you win, but not always. And a lot of times it was ugly, and it was hard to watch. This wasn't hard to watch. This is fun to watch. It was a ton of fun to watch, that ball game. And it really makes you feel good about where this program is going. And when you're playing a fun style, recruits and guys in the transfer portal in the future are going to notice that. It's a very, very small sample. I'm not saying it is. It's one game. So it's a very, very extremely small sample. But all of the comments that have come out from fans has been just like, yes, that's what we're shooting for. That's what we were hoping to see. Lines are open. 812-393-2600 is the number. Going to have, if you want to hear from you, that's why we're doing this. Want to hear this. So we're going to go ahead and wait. We're going to have a guest that's coming on right here. So looking forward to it. And really, when you look at this program and where it has been over the past couple of years, I think that just being able to see, how it has all come about, how everything has developed, has been a ton of fun, to say the least. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our first guest that I've been dying to talk basketball with this guy. I talked to him a little bit yesterday, but everybody's busy. And we have Jeff Rabjohns from Peegs.com. Rabby, how are you doing? And let's just start about how enjoyable it was to watch the basketball that we saw on Wednesday.
Ken, fantastic, and that was a good brand of basketball that we saw. They started so many possessions with open lanes. There was player movement. There was ball movement. There was shooting. There was action to create shots, create threes. There was action to create threes for their two best three-point shooters, Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson. And it was smart basketball. It was offensively aggressive basketball. And I just thought it was a really, really good brand of basketball. I mean, I understand it's Alabama A&M. We all get that. It was not who they played. It was how they played. And to me, that was by far the biggest takeaway from the season opener under Darren DeVries.
Yeah, like I said, it's a small sample, and you're right about the level of talent. But I obviously during the game I went through and looked at what was the margin of victory for each IU head coach in history, going back to James Horn in 1901 for their first win, and Darren DeVries beat his first opponent by the most points of any coach in IU history. I believe Bob Knight was at like 7 points or 9 for his first win. Nobody else has really come close. So other people have played this level of team and haven't been as successful. What does it say about the job Darren DeVries has done in cobbling together these players to get them to play at such a high level, regardless of who the opponent was?
Yeah, I mean, I think it points to a pretty clear vision of how you want to play the game. That's one of the things you see early, like how the new coaches want to try to win. How do they want to play? What are they emphasizing? There's an old phrase in coaching. There's what you coach and what you emphasize.
Right.
And clearly what he's emphasizing is an offense that's about player movement, spacing, ball movement. There were several really, really good possessions, but there was one where the ball not only hit all five guys, but it went from the right side to the paint, to the left corner, to the left wing, up top, then back to Lamar in the corner. The shot didn't go in, but not every shot goes in. But that kind of ball movement is just absolutely fantastic. I remember just sitting there, there on press row and watching that. And it's just like, ping, 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 the ball just moves. And that's really good stuff. So I think what it says is that Darren DeVries has a very modern offense, a very modern style. And at one point, he had five guys on the floor who could make threes. Now, you're not going to have all five taking threes or taking bunches of them, certainly. But five guys who were on the floor who were capable. Reed Bailey has made threes. Sam Alexis did make one. Trent Sisley has shown that he can make them. He did so in the exhibition game against Marion. He had some down in Puerto Rico. So you see an offense that's about shooting and spacing. And you look at the comments on the Peegs board, and like everybody, it was almost cathartic.
Sure.
There was joy, but there was a little bit of relief mixed in this joy. Finally, somebody is coaching actual basketball. We have shooting returning to Bloomington. And I understand shots aren't going to go in every game. I think everybody understands that. But the offense that people saw, I think fans, the reaction was just elation. People were just thrilled to see that kind of basketball. And it really took, 56 seconds for the fans to get into it. Lamar hits that three, and people are like, oh, yes, threes, running threes. We're shooting threes early in the game. So it was, it was a really good performance. And I think the fan reaction, I don't know if I've ever heard that loud of a cheer when the PA announcer announces the halftime free throw stats.
Right, exactly.
Jerry Grady's going through it, and 14 for 14 from the line. People are thrilled to see shooting returning to Bloomington.
Well, and the other interesting thing to me is the way that they played smart as a unit. You have a lot of guys that have played college basketball before, for various programs. But I felt that you didn't have a lot of instances where guys weren't on the same page, which tells me that Darren DeVries has done a pretty damn good job of putting this roster together, because he has guys that are complementing each other and complementing their styles of play if you're able to get them all that up to speed that quickly. And to me, being able to play as a unit so early in the season is really important.
It absolutely is. And obviously the roster does have some limitations. There's not a big rim protector, shot blocker in there. There's some things that they're just not going to be able to do because they don't have certain types of players. But you saw with Reed Bailey, who on paper is the starting center, you saw how well he can run the floor. You talk to coaches and they're like, yeah, he might be, our best runner, not the fastest guy, but a very natural gait, can get up and down the floor. And if you have a plotting center trying to defend him, Reed Bailey's going to beat him up the floor. And we also saw multiple times where Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis, just had beautiful cuts, cuts where they got easy dunks. And yeah, you're not going to get all those dunks against, Big Ten opponents, but it's what they were doing, not who they were doing it against. And the slip screen, some of the ghost screening, there was a little bit that looked like some of the European Bilbao stuff to me, just sitting there watching the game live. But you do have some guys who have some mismatches, and they're utilizing that. They're not just saying, okay, we're only going to do A, B, C, D, and E because we've only done A, B, C, D, and E. They're looking at the roster and going, okay, how do we maximize these guys? How do we maximize Lamar's ability to shoot from anywhere? How do we maximize Tucker DeVries? How do we maximize Reed Bailey as a matchup guy? We're not going to sit him on the block because that's not his game, but we're going to take him out. He's going to face up. He's going to be able to make dribble moves. And when the defense sort of gets to where it's in rotations or it's really chasing the ball, then all of a sudden what happens? Sam Alexis or Reed Bailey slips through on a cut, catch, dunk. I just thought it was really, really good offense. And I think your point's a really good one. It shows that there's clear vision, clear direction. And we've had a chance to watch some, Peegs.com's had a chance to go down there and watch some practices. And what you saw is what they're teaching. They played like they practiced. So I think that's a really good thing. And the other thing is watching practice. there's not wasted time. They're not out there just doing this, doing that. It's focused on get guys warmed up. Okay, now we're going to do drills that are about things we want to do in games. Then we're going to do it 2-on-2. Then we're going to do it 3-on-3. Then we're going to do it 5-on-5. But it's all about things that they want to do in games, how they want the players to move, what reads do you make, where does the ball need to go. So it's just really smart basketball.
So back in 2002, Nirvana released a song called "You Know You're Right." Now, obviously, it was, I think, 9 or 8 years after Kurt Cobain killed himself. And I'm going somewhere with this, Rabbi, I promise you.
Okay.
And when I heard the song for the first time, what came to mind, I remember asking my girlfriend, now my wife, I said, is this song this good, or is everything we've been listening to so bad? So I ask you, the basketball that we watched last night, is it really that good and that special, or at least that refreshing, or is it just the basketball we've been watching for the last 4 to 8 years just been so far behind what we saw yesterday?
I would say it's probably a combination of both. If all you've been looking at is a blank wall and they bring you a really pretty painting from a college artist, it looks great. You put it next to a Rembrandt, it may not be as special, even though it might be pretty. So certainly the juxtaposition of the past 8 years to what we saw in the opener of the Darren DeVries era is a factor, no doubt. But I do think it's really good basketball. I think it's kind of basketball that will help you win. Again, this specific roster, it's got some limitations. We'll see how many wins and losses are at the end of the season. But it's a good brand of basketball, and it's the kind of basketball that you can recruit to. We, as much as Trevor and I are out there, you see more guys 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", who are wings. Indiana
Right.
just got one of them, Von Carvalho, kid originally from Wisconsin, now playing at Bella Vista out in Arizona. 6'6", 6'7" guy. Trent Sisley years ago would be a clearly interior player, and he's very capable of making threes. Can still go in and do some hard hat stuff. But you just see more guys who can face up, can shoot. So it's a very attractive style, and I think it'll be attractive to high school recruits. I also think it's going to be attractive to some portal guys. I think that's something that's going to be interesting to see as the program moves along, not just the season. Because it took a couple of weeks to get the whole staff together, to get everybody in Bloomington and all that. So a little bit of a kind of like a slower lift off from the runway in the spring. Now you're going to have a whole staff that's together for a year. So I think their connections, coupled with a really smart, attractive, shooter-friendly offense, I think that's going to help. And talking to Darren DeVries up at Big Ten Basketball Media Day, he had a really almost impassioned speech when I asked him about the offense, and he talked about how threes are going to be a big part of who we are, and here's why. And he went through it with considerable detail. And I think it's a good style. I think it's a modern style. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think you can recruit to it, and I think the fans are going to enjoy it. I think one thing that I walked away from, or I should say I felt in Assembly Hall, it seemed like Hoosier Nation had some of its basketball joy back.
Yeah.
They were enjoying watching their Hoosiers play basketball. And I don't know how many times over the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years there's been genuine joy at the style of play, and there certainly was in the Darren DeVries opener.
How refreshing was it to you that you got actual basketball analysis during that post-game press conference? Because we've seen for years Woody gets asked questions, and his best answers, we got to get him over the hump, we got to do this, listen fellas, and all of this. But you actually had solid, immediate after the game analysis from the head coach at the podium. How refreshing was that for you as somebody who has been doing this a long time?
Well, it certainly was. It was very refreshing, and it's nice for the fans too, because we're the ones asking the questions because we're the ones in the room. But you want to be able to ask questions that get insight for the fans, get perspective of the coach of the players. What did you see as coaches and players? What were your thoughts on sort of this that went well or this that didn't go well? And it was really refreshing. I mean, it was incredible. It was like getting a chance to come in out of the cold, and it's not just a bunch of cliches and random stuff and get them over the hump, and it's not about me, and it's the nonsense was gone, and there was good basketball conversation, and I think that helps the fans. I think that helps fans. Another thing that I think we're starting to see is like there's a clear focus from Darren DeVries and IU overall to sort of reconnect the basketball program to the fan base.
Yeah.
It started, move-in day, DeVries and the assistants, some of the players are out there, meeting students, helping them carry stuff in and everything. We saw DeVries and the players, shake hands with the people who made the Puerto Rico trip in August. We saw after exhibition games, players would stay on the court and sign autographs, take pictures. DeVries shook hands with a bunch of people at the game last night. They're little things, but there's a clear emphasis for reconnecting the program to the fans. They brought back Haunted Hall of Hoops, and I was down there, and there were just so many little kids just running around getting autographs, getting pictures, and there was just an attempt to reconnect. And I think that's really positive. That doesn't necessarily impact wins and losses, but it's a good thing to do, and I think it's very helpful for the program. And I just think it's smart. It's just smart to help people reconnect with Indiana basketball.
I think it's a function, too, of having a head coach who is familiar with college basketball and has lived in this college basketball world for a long time and understands that connecting with fan bases on a personal level when it comes to the college town is a lot different than what you see at the next level. And I don't want to spend all this time, talking about Mike Woodson, but that to me is part of the equation on this thing as well. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about, from individual performances, what did you really like out of what you saw from, if there was one or two players that you can really pinpoint as being guys that you really liked, and who is it that you want to see more from?
Yeah, well, I think, I think 4 guys stood out the most to me. And I think the main 3, we know who Tucker DeVries is.
Right.
I don't think there's question there. He's established. So it's kind of early on, the exhibition games, kind of looking at some of the other guys. I thought I'm taking Tucker off the table. I thought the 3 guys who stood out to me the most were Lamar Wilkerson, Reed Bailey, and Sam Alexis. Lamar Wilkerson, from the standpoint of, he went out and did what we expected him to do. Shot the ball really well, shot with confidence, took 10 threes. Every single one of them made sense.
Right.
And even the long ones, he practices those. It's not like, he's just out there. Those aren't heat checks. Those are hey, we get the ball up the court quickly. The defense isn't set. Lamar, fire it. And that's going to be part of who they are. So I thought he was really impressive. I thought he was aggressive. I thought he looked for his shots. I thought he moved really well. Sometimes I like trying to watch certain guys and, not really watch just the ball, but watch certain guys, how do they move. And I spent a couple of 4-minute segments basically just watching Lamar. I think his movement's fantastic. I think he really has a good feel for where he's trying to go to get shots. And with Reed Bailey, I thought his ability to play as a mismatch type guy really stood out. Again, running the floor, he runs really well. He catches it. His ability to make plays on the move, I thought, was good. And I thought the same thing from Sam Alexis. I thought Sam was really good. 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. To me, that was noticeable. That Sam's out there and he's actually part of moving the ball. I just thought that was something it's not just a black hole that he cuts toward the post or toward the paint. There's an opportunity to play to him and play through him. So I would say, taking Tucker off the table, those are the 3 guys who jumped out to me the most.
Well, Jeff, I certainly appreciate you coming on and talking some basketball with us. It's again, the last 8 years has seen a lot of ups and downs. You've had some good moments, but I am as encouraged as I have been in some time in just seeing how the team played. I say on here all the time, it's not how, it's how many, but from an encouragement standpoint, the style, the things that I feel have been missing have been great to see. And I really appreciate you coming on and giving your analysis of last night's game.
Absolutely, man. Have a great night. Talk to you soon, Ken.
All right. I appreciate it. Take care. 812-393-2600 is the number. The Hoosiers, 98-51 over Alabama A&M. They got Marquette coming up this weekend. IU football is playing at Penn State, so a lot of excitement with that as well, to say the least. And coming on to talk to us a little bit about both IU basketball and football is Jared Kelly from Peegs.com. Jared, how are your thoughts on just what it was that the Hoosiers were able to do against Alabama A&M?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, Ken. Nice to do these midweek shows with you. I mean, the first thing I keep coming back to, and I said this last night numerous times, like, wow, I haven't seen that in X amount of years. I haven't seen that in X amount of years. I mean, even like early in the first half when Tucker DeVries hits that falling away three in the corner, I mean, you probably count on one hand how many times Indiana even attempted that shot over the last 4 to 8 years. Lamar Wilkerson, the fact that he has a green light to shoot from basically anywhere he wants on the court, you haven't seen that in a handful of years. It's just really nice to see a team that, they play like modern basketball is played. All these other teams we watch on TV weekly are playing this style of basketball, and Indiana's kind of been stuck in the past for far too long. So it was just really refreshing to see. It was fun to watch. And we don't know what Indiana's going to do this season. Obviously, there's a long road ahead with the NCAA tournament and all that, but this is going to be a fun team to watch. I think we can safely say, and it's just very refreshing.
I was asking Robbie about this, and I'll ask you too, that having all these guys that come from all kinds of different programs. This isn't now unique in college basketball, but for IU, that's a lot of people, a lot of new faces, not a single player from last year on the roster. The fact that they were able to come together and play as well as they did as a unit, how much does that impress you?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it would probably take some time here. I think the exhibition in the preseasons, the games in Puerto Rico, really helped this team coalesce a little bit. But the other part is, these are a lot of seniors. We have a lot of upperclassmen on this team who have, obviously been through the trenches throughout their college careers, and some of them are still young and learning the system. But I think a lot of these guys are experienced, albeit at a lower level. And there's a lot of things, to like from them. That they'll give you a lot more veteran leadership, and they just know how to play the game a lot better than what you would get from if you brought in just a bunch of freshmen and sophomores.
It's a very, very small sample size, obviously one game, and you had the couple exhibitions in Puerto Rico, but you didn't see a lot of me ball. It was into where somebody was forcing things. That sharing the ball, I think, makes a huge difference. And when you have a team that moves the ball as well as IU at least did in this one, how much will that help open up everything else? If they continue to play with anywhere near that kind of level.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last night. The ball was zipping around. There was one play where I think Wilkerson got a three in the corner. I think everybody touched the ball within like 5 seconds. The ball just really moves around so much better than what we've seen in the past there, and it really feels like there's obviously Tate Conaway is going to be the lead playmaker, lead ball handler for this team, but it really feels like you have so many different guys who are willing to distribute the ball, willing to kind of make that next pass, and that's really good to see. Even the big Sam Alexis, excuse me, Reed Bailey, both of them had a couple of assists last night, so. It's really good to see all across the floor, and this is an unselfish team, but I think that'll serve them well in the long run.
What was there anything that concerned you? That you saw that were any kind of red flags? Again, understanding that it's a really, really very, very small sample size.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to fault anything Indiana did last night with how big of a lead they got out to. I think DeVries mentioned this after the game. You saw a little bit of relenting down the stretch, which is kind of human nature. And obviously this parallels Chris Ignetti a lot with what he preaches and playing. Every play like it's 0-0. You'd probably like to see that. Maybe if you could nitpick a little bit, you'd like to see Indiana keep their foot on the gas. They came they had like 3 different shots to get to 100 points. They couldn't break that last night. That would have been nice to see, but. Maybe that would be the small nitpick is making sure you keep your foot on the gas, because that even translates, if you have letdowns in the second half, even a little bit in close games, are you going to build those habits, or poor habits, I should say. So maybe that, and then obviously, some of the front court depth and the front court size, that's going to continue to be a season-long concern. We'll see how Indiana ultimately plays that, but I also thought in that regard, Indiana did some different things last night, especially in the second half when they were up big. They tried some different things defensively where, you saw Tucker DeVries come from the weak side and double the post. You saw guys digging down. So it feels like Indiana's kind of working through some things with the front court. But all in all, last night was an A-plus effort, I thought.
Well, and this is the time to do it too, especially with a new team. Is that, hey, you can work on different things when you're up by 40 against Alabama A&M in November. That's your time to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, certainly. And I mean, these games are going to come, especially the early portion of the non-con. Maybe not so much against Marquette, where obviously you're going out there to get a win and you're going to play your top guys as much as they can give you. But the Lindenwood and Cardinal Ward, those kind of teams. If Indiana's really able to put it on, like they did against Alabama A&M, and run out to early leads, I think you can start to see DeVries try some of these new things because once Big Ten play starts, and watching the Big Ten during this opening week, I mean you just see the size across the conference. This is going to be a very very big and physical conference as it is every year, but especially this year. I mean, like Michigan State starting three front court players, basically 3, 4, 5. Michigan's got 2 7-footers in the starting lineup, so. Different things here and there for Indiana, and it's tough in these non-con games where you're playing these low majors who don't have the size.
Right.
It's tough to know exactly how that's going to look, but I think it should serve them well.
Have you had a chance to start to look at Marquette yet? And even at that, what are you expecting this weekend?
I haven't looked at Marquette too much. They're kind of in the same boat as Indiana this year, where a lot of new faces, and they lost their top scorer last year, an All-American, and Cam Jones. So that's going to be one part of it. Shaka Smart, obviously, he's been around the block. Done some really really good things with different teams at Texas, Marquette, obviously. So you expect them to come ready. They're going to play physical. Now they've already played 2 games
Right.
this season. I believe they played Monday night, Wednesday night. So that could get interesting to see how their legs are in this kind of short time span. But I believe Bart Torvik has it as a projected 2-point win for Indiana. So basically a toss them at this point.
Yep.
There's obviously going to be a large Indiana contingency in Chicago just with the alumni base. So we'll see how much the crowd gives Indiana some energy there. But, one of the things we saw with Indiana so many times in the past is they get blown out in games like this. As long as Indiana can compete, I think that's really all you can ask for. As long as, they may not come out with a win, but as long as you see them competing for all 40 minutes, I think that's at least a positive.
The fact that Indiana played Baylor in their one of their exhibition games, how much of a difference does that make? Because they have a little bit of experience playing against a higher level team, and they won the ball game at that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why Indiana wanted to schedule a team like Baylor is to get some legitimate athletes and legitimate size, at least on film and things that you can work on in practice before the bullets start flying. And Baylor does have a lot of good athletes. They have a completely revamped roster, as we know, but they have a lot of really good athletes that recruit well. Scott Drew's always recruited well there. So I think it will help. I don't know how much they match up Baylor does to Marquette in terms of positional versatility and size. That remains to be seen. But I think it'll definitely help Indiana as they go forward here towards Sunday.
Let's go ahead and move over to the football side of things. Indiana takes on Penn State in Happy Valley this weekend. Obviously, this game looked a lot different at the start of the season than where it is now. Penn State, losers of 5 straight games. Still, Penn State is critical. And just what are you expecting from Curt Cignetti's crew as they go into Happy Valley as 2 touchdown favorites?
Yeah, I've been kind of ruminating on this even last week as we look ahead. Obviously, Curt Cignetti's never looking ahead, but I'm looking ahead.
Right.
And I wrote this week in my midweek column. I understand the angst among the Indiana fan base with Penn State, with Happy Valley. You have never won in Beaver Stadium. I get all that. But when you really look at this game, and if you take away the logo, you take away the name of Penn State, you take away Beaver Stadium, and the demons of Indiana's past there, this game on paper should not be competitive. Penn State this year, I mean, they're averaging I think the second most points per game allowed in Big Ten play this year. They lost to UCLA, Northwestern, for God's sake. I mean, this is a team right now, for all the talent they have, something is just not clicking there. Their offense is one of the least explosive in the Big Ten. They really struggle to push the ball downfield. It doesn't help that they have a redshirt freshman quarterback who's making, I believe, his third career start this weekend. So a lot working in Indiana's favor. And then defensively, for Indiana, I mean, it's just been a buzzsaw. And obviously, the status of Aiden Fisher, we'll see if he ultimately plays Saturday. That's going to be important for Indiana. But, without Fisher, they still, where they held Maryland to 37 rushing yards without Aiden Fisher. And Penn State's rushing attack is much better. But I think Indiana can still, withstand the storm. And then Penn State, I mean, if Indiana's going to load up the box on the run, because that's what Penn State's obviously going to try to do with 2 NFL backs. If Indiana is able to shut down the run and Penn State is anemic throwing the ball as they have been all season, I don't really see a path to victory here for Penn State. Now, who knows? Maybe the talent there for Penn State keeps, allows them to kind of keep their head above water and make this game closer than it should be. But ultimately, I think with Indiana's defense and how well Indiana's offense is playing right now, I think this one's going to be kind of over in the third quarter.
I agree with you on that completely. What the one thing that just makes me pause just a little bit is that talent, and that talent went to Penn State, not planning to stay home during bowl season, and they need to start winning games. If they're going to become bowl eligible, forget what their aspirations were at the start of the year. They have to start winning games. So to me, this is a team that's going to be focused, that's going to be ready to play. The issue, of course, is that IU shows up too. And they may not have, the 5-star players and as much raw talent, when it comes to recruiting. But Indiana is the number 2 team in the country for a reason. And they're going to be, there hasn't been a game yet, Jared, that Curt Cignetti hasn't had his team ready to play. And you could bet all of these things are things that he's telling his players as well.
Yeah, and as backwards as it might sound, I actually think Indiana has more to play for in this game than Penn State does.
Sure.
Because you don't go to Penn State to play in a 6-win bowl game, to play in whatever the Duke's Mayo Bowl is or wherever the Pinstripe Bowl, Detroit Bowl. Like, you don't go to Penn State to do that. And at this point, I mean, that's all they're playing for this season, if they can even get to a bowl game. Whereas Indiana, I mean, you got everything in front of you. Big Ten title game, of course. First up, and then the CFP. I believe Indiana is going to play, has a lot more riding on this game than Penn State does. Now, maybe Penn State, they find some motivation in the fact that this is number 2 team in the nation and they have a chance to play spoiler. And maybe this is their Super Bowl of sorts this year because everything else is off the table.
Right.
I just don't see it. I watched that Penn State-Ohio State game this past weekend. Penn State kept it close at halftime, but once Ohio State pulled away, like you could see Penn State sort of capitulate there in the third quarter into the fourth quarter. So I would not be surprised with this how the game goes this weekend. It might not be this the same sort of blowouts that we saw against Maryland, UCLA, those kind of teams because of Penn State's talent. I just don't know how much fight they have left in them this season.
Well, and the energy from the crowd, I think, is going to be interesting as well because those people didn't sign up to see them. You fall behind to Indiana. They're there to see them win ball games, and obviously that place has been a mess this year. And it's going to be a challenge. Noon kickoff though, so I'm very pleased about that. I'm always a big fan of those noon kickoffs. Before I let you go, IU has Penn State at noon. Obviously, you got Wisconsin at noon. Then they have a week off. They play the Friday after Thanksgiving. Looking ahead just a little bit a week, you got to take care of business here. But, Jared, the last 3 games of the season here, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue, they're currently a combined 0-16 on the season. This path of this dream of being undefeated is crystal clear, and it's just basically in IU's hands at this point, isn't it?
It's right there for them. And I even said this before the Maryland game. I thought that if Indiana could go and handle the 2-game road stretch, you take care of Maryland, you take care of Penn State, you're basically 12-0 at that point.
Right.
Because you got the 2 worst teams in the Big Ten, Wisconsin, Purdue, left on the schedule. Now, obviously, not trying to look past them, but Wisconsin this year has been an absolute mess, and Purdue, they haven't really gotten much better either. So if you can get past this Penn State game, I find it very hard to believe unless some kind of lightning bolt strikes or something. I find it very hard to believe Indiana doesn't go 12-0 this season. And I've thought about this now as 12-0 has become more of a possibility. Like, how do we even contextualize all this? Because last year was tough to contextualize in itself, and now that we're staring down the barrel of 12-0, it's like I don't even know where to begin. How many teams in college football history have even gone 12-0, let alone Indiana, the losingest program of all time? So it's all very foreign to us, and we'll try to write our way through it.
It still sure is enjoyable, and it's house money, even this year. I said over and over last year that it was as good as it was going to get because of the lack of expectations. And I stand by that because of how surprising it was. But, boy, it is nice to be on the side of, your historic powers to where you're stacking season. This isn't a fluke. This is just reality for the Hoosiers. And, their biggest deal is that getting past Penn State on the road and then taking care of business in the final two. Jared, thank you so much for joining us, giving your insight on football and basketball and everything. Look forward to seeing your coverage from this weekend.
Of course, and I will say I will be in Happy Valley there too, so you guys can follow along. Try to keep tabs on Elijah Surratt and Aiden Fisher pregame, and then we'll see where we go from there. But thanks for having me, Ken. I always enjoy talking.
Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
That was Jared Kelly from Peegs.com coming on and joining us. So excited to hear from them. I'll go ahead and I'll open it up to anybody else that wants to give a phone call in and shout out here. 812-393-2600 is the number. Throw a question in the chat as our first little experiment here on the weekday non-basketball day is continues. But again, Darren DeVries gets his team off to a very exciting start. IU football has their very exciting start. And now the question, I'm going to do this to you people. I just have to. I just absolutely have to. For Darren DeVries, getting what he wants to see from his team against Marquette in Chicago.
As the coach, I gotta get us over that hump.
Got to get him over that hump. Cignetti on the road, taking on Penn State, being able to win on the road like they did at Oregon, and getting the first ever win at Happy Valley. What do you got to do, Coach?
As the coach, I gotta get us over that hump.
Got to get him over that hump, but that's okay because we're not worried about Sig because
it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
There we are. It sounds it's going to be an exciting weekend to say the least, and we'll have call-in shows after both the Penn State game and the Marquette game on Saturday and Sunday. Really looking forward to talking with you folks. Getting on that weekend schedule is going to be fun, and I'm also excited that everybody's going to be able to see IU play Marquette. Especially, I hope that with that Marquette game, 1:00 tip-off in Chicago, that ESPN's available for everybody because I know that has been an issue as well, an annoying issue with YouTube TV and all of that. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks. It's going to be a very busy November with the overlap. I'm looking forward to hearing you guys. I'll go ahead and let you folks go for the evening, but really excited to see how the next couple of weeks play out. And again, thank you to our guests, Jeff Rabjohns and Jared Kelly, for coming on and joining us and giving their invaluable insight on the Hoosiers. Well, that's all the time we have on the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. We have another caller, so I'm gonna stop this here. I'm gonna squeeze him in. Caller, what's your name? And what you got?
Hey Ken, this is Bobby. I'm calling from Noblesville, and just wanted to talk a little bit about something we haven't touched base with last night is the on-ball defense that was being played by Enright, Conaway, and Lamar Wilkerson. They
Yep.
really caused a lot of on-ball pressure and showed that I think that defense is a staple of Darren DeVries. And we talk about the shooting and everything, but, man, they really guarded last night, and that was impressive to see.
And they harassed him a bunch. Didn't force a bunch of turnovers. Alabama A&M had 11 turnovers, but they didn't give him a lot of room to shoot. Didn't give him a lot of room to move. And when Alabama A&M wanted to get chippy, IU didn't back down in any way, shape, or form. They were right there. Enright got popped in the nose once and had another one where he went crashing down and he came back for more. And to me, that showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit for the first game of the season.
Enright looks like that guard that, doesn't want to score a lot, but he'll come out and harass you and be that opposing player that everybody on the opposing team just hates to play against.
Yep.
And I was impressed with him. He's pretty quick. And, a lot of these guys, I was telling a friend earlier, a lot of these guys, they came from low major programs, except, our inside player from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these guys, that they're players. They can really get after it, and I think they have a lot to prove. And they showed me a lot of grit last night, and it was a lot of fun to be inside Assembly Hall. And I really think Darren DeVries is going to do a great job at Indiana. I've told Rabbi that off the air before, and it just seems like a perfect fit for him. I'm really excited for the future, and I'm happy that Jared Kelly gets to go to Penn State this weekend because he gets to go down on the field with a field pass and look up and just see 100,000 people, and hopefully IU can come out this weekend, score, get up early, like 7 or 14 points, and basically turn the crowd out of the game. And that's a crowd that'll turn on their team real quick when they get down.
Right.
So hopefully we can get off to a great start and shut the crowd up. And it's really been something over the last 2 years to see. I've always said that if we could be just as good as Iowa, go 9-3 or 8-4 and get the bowl games.
Yep.
But my, oh my, never in my lifetime would I imagine that Kirk Signetti come in and turn this program around and has us playing for a national title game possibly, and it's something else to see. And I'm so happy for him. I couldn't be happier, for IU as a university overall. It's a special place. A lot of great sports over the years, and with Pam Whitten and Scott Dolson leading the way, I think a lot of great things are still to come. So appreciate you taking my call, and you all have a good night, okay?
I appreciate it. Take care. Made a lot of good points. And I've always said that Indiana should strive to be Iowa, one of those teams that goes to a bowl consistently, that challenges for championships every now and again. And obviously, Kurt Signetti decided to skip that whole now and then situation. The fact that he's been able to do it year over year is really impressive. And so now you have to build. You take your baby steps. They had their step last year, their surprise, and then you had to show that it's sustainable, and they did just that. They were doing that this year, and it continues to grow. And a win at Happy Valley would go a long way towards just further solidifying Indiana's status as an elite program in the nation. Real quick before we wrap up. He mentioned about the guys who have come in from lower level and come up and playing with a lot of grit. Those guys also have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They want to prove to everybody they belong in the Big Ten, that they belong there, that they were overlooked when they landed at some of these other spots. So playing with the chip on your shoulder, playing with that grit, that is part of the equation when it comes to all of this. And to me, that is something that to keep an eye on. It's a very good point that he made, because this is an IU team that is going to go into every game feeling it has something to prove to somebody, and that makes a big difference. Again, we have noon kickoff at Penn State. You have a, I believe, 1 o'clock tip-off against Marquette on Saturday. Fun weekend. Let's try this outro again. It's all the time we have for the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Folks, we're out of time, but for now, and for Jeff, Matt, Jared, and Trevor, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.